Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and welcome to today's CICHLIDS and Coffee. And I see some of you are already on the chat, and that's awesome. And I hope wherever you are, you're having a cup of joe in one of these cups. Oh, yeah. Shameless plug from my Teespring channel. And I also hope you're having it on one of these coasters. My CICHLIDS and Coffee coaster, which some of you have probably already received. And I did a survey at the YouTube community page and got some great tips. And I have a video walkthrough of the fish room for you. You'll be able to see it commercial free, unlike when it gets uploaded, we drop some commercials into it. Lady Diane, I did get your email, and I am sorry to hear that. And, I can't even imagine. But at any rate, good thoughts go on your way, Lady Diane. So let's take a look here. Who do we have? Who's here? Of course, Lady Diane is here, and we also have Miguel Cintron. Hola, amigo, ¿cómo estás? Cat Sailor. Hey, Jerry, good to see you, buddy. Looks like Michael Welsh is here as well. Got a new Dolphin Blue, and I think if I remember correctly, I think those dolphins do a little better in groups for a couple of reasons. One, they do kind of school, which is kind of cool. They hang out together, but also if they get a little bit aggressive, which they can be, dolphins can be aggressive, they will tend to direct that aggression more towards each other as opposed to the rest of the tank. Now, all that being said, Jerry, who's in the chat, one of my wonderful moderators, has a large dolphin, or had a large dolphin that seemed to do fine all by himself in a cichlid tank. So again, there are always exceptions. Take everything you hear on YouTube with a salt mine, because it's all anecdotal, based on firsthand experience and very little science, and for the most part. So just keep that in mind. Damar's in the house. Hey, Damar's. And Damar, I think, means of the ocean. My mother used to perform with a mambo group back in the 50s, and her stage name was Lamar, which is of the ocean. So Damar, you might be of the ocean, which is better than from Mars. So let's see here. Lady Diane, Michael. Hey, Dave Rice in the house. Clarence Carr is here along with Jeff Kane. Dustin Robley in the house, has had 3 cups already. You're probably speaking in a language you have never spoken before at this point, and having a religious experience, depending on the strength of your coffee. Atkins Nature Aquariums. Hey to you, Atkins Nature Aquariums. I used to do the Atkins diet. I'm currently on keto, which is the new version of Atkins. Hey, Brian, good to see you. So, Kendall, more folks are coming on. I like it. Junior Torres in the house. What's up, Junior Torres? What's up with you? Harry Sandoval. A lot of Spanish names. Mucho gusto en ver tantos nombres que son latinos. Me encanta ver eso. Algún día voy a empezar un canal a donde hablo español, donde hablo Spanglish. Junior Torres, R. Baglio, Waynard Walmerans. Man, it is anybody who's everybody. AV is good from Denny. Thank you, Denny. Appreciate that. Always appreciate that. All right, so what do we got? We've got a video for you, walkthrough, update, and I want to go over these comments that some of you were kind enough to make. And I'll tell you how the whole thing started, how how I got onto this whole thing on tips. And but first, let's go ahead and do the official start of the live stream. Oh, is it not showing? Maybe it's not. Hold on, I've got a fix for that. Oop, you can hear it. I can hear it in the background. Let's do this. And I'll get it to show. Here we go. You have to know where you where things are positioned. There we go, dropping. Here we go. Now we can do it. All right. That means we are officially underway. And let me see if I can make one more adjustment here. What happens is on the scenes, if one scene is higher than another one, it will be, okay, it will actually not allow the other scenes to show. So just something to be aware of. There we go. Okay, I think we're all set now. So a big shout out to my friend Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. He has agreed to give you all a special deal. 15% off on fish. Use ben.o.15 for 15% off, and ben.o.10 for 10% off on things like his food and all that good stuff that he has going on over at his site. So check out Josh at Cunningham Tropicals. Used to be Cunningham CICHLIDS, but he has diversified. Also, a very big shout out to my Patreon members. You are very appreciated for all the help that you provide. And it starts for as little as $3 a month. Check it out. Usually in the description, there's a link in the description, but YouTube doesn't allow active links in descriptions anymore. I don't know why. So you may have to cut and paste, but just look for me on Patreon. And thank you to all my Patreon monthly supporters. You are awesome. And let's see, any other bills I need to pay? If you want to pick up t-shirts and mugs, visit the Teespring store. We've got a whole line of clothing and swag and good stuff there, including the t-shirt I currently have on, which is a Garage Gang t-shirt. And I saw some of you at Aquashella with Mess Less for Success wearing that t-shirt. I thought that was very, very cool. Very appreciated when you folks pick up stuff from the Teespring store. Helps the channel. You can also help the channel by using my Amazon link, which I don't have here set up. But the Amazon link is, if you go to Amazon, just do amazon.com/shop/ben.o.chart, all one word. And you can then have access to all of Amazon, but anything you buy gives a small percentage to the channel, and it's very, very cool. It also puts you into my store, which has just about every product I've ever reviewed, is at my Amazon store, so be sure to check that out. All right, so where do I start? Now, let's talk a little bit about the how I got onto this whole thing on the best tips. What happened was I was talking about plans and things of that nature, and somebody said that when they were starting their tank, when they first started their tank, they threw live plants in, and that helped to speed up the cycling and getting the tank ready for fish. And I thought, well, what a brilliant idea. Whether you're going to end up having a planted tank or not, go pick up a big, like a big bag of water sprite or hornwort, stuff that you don't even need to bother putting into the substrate, and throw it in there and let it start absorbing ammonia. And of course that will drop your nitrate, because the ammonia, right, is what converts into nitrate. So plants love ammonia. They just love, as a matter of fact, if I understand it correctly, and for those of you out there who are plant experts, plants prefer ammonia to nitrite. So they will really help move that tank along quickly in getting it ready for fish. So I thought that was a great idea. Then I thought to myself, there are probably so many great tips out there, so many great tips that people have picked up over the years and are just sitting in their head that would benefit the community if they could share them. So I went on the community page, the YouTube community page, and I asked for some tips. And then I went on to the Facebook group, the ben.o.cichlid Facebook group, and I asked the same question. Tell me what's been the best tip you've picked up. Now, by the way, you remember last week, any super chat over $5, you're going to get samples of Sarah and Northfin food, and you're going to get a brand new coaster that has just become available. I just got them in the mail. So any super chat over $5, and then you have to send me your mailing address to ben.o.cichlid@gmail.com, and then I will mail out to you samples of Sarah, Northfin food, excellent food, and a channel coaster. I think they're pretty cool. I don't think you can get them too wet though, because they are, they're hard cardboard coasters, but it's not like a hard rubber or ceramic coaster, but they're still pretty cool. I think they really got Teespring really nailed the colors on them. You see the colors, they really got the colors right. So I like them. So again, any super chat, $5 or more, send me, we got to have at least $5 to cover shipping. For any of you who received your coaster, you saw the postage. It's at least $5 to send out some food and a coaster in a small envelope. So just trying to cover that. And then YouTube takes 30%. So I actually, you know what? I'm losing money on this. Man, I'm like a horrible accountant. Yeah, whatever. All right. So let's take a look at these, some of these tips. Now, what should we do? Should we do the tips first or the lap first? What do you folks want to see? Do you want to see the entire fish room? Do you want to see the lap of the fish room first? Or do you want to get into some of these tips? What do you want to do first? Go ahead and tell me in the chat. I'm looking at the chat right now. What do you want to do first? I'm waiting to hear from you. Hello. Tips and use the tour as dessert. Lady Diane, I'm gonna follow your advice. Let's go with these tips first, which is what is what was promised by the thumbnail, right? All right, let's go there first. So I'm going to change scenes and hold on. There we go. This is a different scene actually in my OBS. For those of you who know software for streaming. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this was the YouTube question that I asked was, what's the best tip you received when you first got into keeping fish? Share below, and your comment might end up featured in an upcoming video. And one of the first comments was Kenny Gold 6494, and his comment was getting a canister filter for my first large tank. It's easy to use a hang-on back filter, especially if you've never used a canister. But when I got my large aquarium, watching videos on how to trick out the filter, install, and clean the canister filter was the best tutorial tips for me, because I only had experience with small aquariums beforehand. Now, a lot of folks will rag on canister filters. They'll say that they're nitrate factories, or they tend to leak. And of course, I'm in the middle of swapping out O-rings on FX6, so I can attest that occasionally they will have problems, but they do run for years and years and years without any issues. I'm seeing some brand new canisters coming out on the market, like your Oace. I think CICHLIDS has a whale now. There's other canisters out there now. I use Suns with great success, but don't be afraid of canister filters. I have a canister filter playlist that gives you great tips on how to make those canisters just hum and work fine. Everything from putting them into a Rubbermaid, you put a water alarm, you put them on a pad, you lubricate the O-rings, you put a pre-filter on them, make sure you don't have any extra looping hose, make sure the hoses go pretty much directly to the aquarium without a lot of extra slack, just enough slack so you can move the canister to service it. So there's tips on how to keep these canisters running forever, and based on my history, I'm getting about 4 years or more of use out of canisters before I need to do anything to them, like O-rings and things like that, where something might possibly start to give me a slow drip. Now, that's not to say that a canister can't fail. I mean, a hang-on back can fail. Any filter can fail, really. An aquarium can fail. I mean, a seam can start to leak, and so anything can have a problem. But for the most part, if you want just two tubes in your aquarium, and with the Oace, with the heater built into the Oace canisters, you don't even have to have a heater in your aquarium. Just an output, which is high up, you can't even see it, and the input, which is usually lower in the aquarium. So it really reduces clutter. There's no big bulky sponge filter in there. With the Oace, there's no heater. So it's, yeah, Carrie, I think you made a good move there in getting into canister filters, and they're real quiet. I mean, when they're set up correctly, they don't make any noise, and they're in the cabinet. So they're not an eyesore. Also on YouTube, we got these comments came in. Let's take a look at these comments and talk about them. And as I talk about them, if you think of any questions or have a comment regarding this, go ahead and share them, because I'd like to hear it. Well, let's take a look at what these folks had to say here in their comments and talk about what they have to say. We'll start off with the one at the top. We have Matt Helm 3795. Matt Helm, how to do a fish in cycle. I was forced into one with my first tank. My son's grandma showed up one day with a tank and some fish for his birthday. not knowing much about fish at the time, I turned to YouTube, got some great advice from a good channel, and it has helped me ever, I guess that means ever since. So, you know, we have to be aware of that. We have to know about fish in cycles, because sometimes we're forced to do that and we don't have access to seeded media, because putting seeded media from an established tank into conditioned water is the best way to start up a tank. No question. Well, what if you don't have access to that? What do you do? Now, in my case, I use Fritz Zyme water conditioner, then Fritz Zyme, and then I immediately start adding fish, and the ammonia being produced by the feeding of the fish is going to feed the Fritz Zyme bacteria. And I was talking about this with Denny, with Dennis Riddell just the other day. No problems. No problems at all. You don't throw 100 fish in at once. You put 3 or 4 in. However, there are times where you start an aquarium from scratch and no fish, and you hear some of the old school guys and gals talking about throwing in a shrimp. Throw a piece of shrimp in there. Put a few black skirt tetras in there. You know, put a couple of fish in there that are real hardy, and so you definitely have to be aware of it. And of course, that means that you also have to be aware of what is the nitrogen cycle. What are you trying to accomplish? You have to be familiar with test kits and using test kits, and what do those test kits mean? And also, it's probably a good idea to be aware of why is your brand new aquarium fogging up? Why does it look cloudy? Should you panic? Does it mean something is wrong? Or are you just getting an algae or a bacterial bloom, which is actually a good thing that should be left alone and allowed to run its course? So, yep, that's a good one there. That is a good one, Matt. Jesse Cliff, just because it's new doesn't mean it isn't faulty. Check your heaters, filters, everything from time to time. And that is very, very good advice. I once had a heater that I didn't look at. I just assumed it was working fine, and it ended up boiling a beautiful red spotted Severn that I had in quarantine. And some of you remember a short that I put out where I threw a Cobalt Ecotherm into the trash in a YouTube short, which I'm sure the folks at Cobalt ended up loving. But I just threw it in the trash. And because I had heard that it had problems before, I heard they had fixed it, and it went ahead and cooked one of my fish. I did not like that. So there you go. So yeah, check your temperatures, check filter function. I check every other day. I check the water level in my sumps, because you do get a lot of evap. And when you have a DIY sump, you don't necessarily have a lid on it. So I do lose evaporation, and then I top off at least once a week on the bigger tanks. So yeah, doing an inspection, not assuming things are running correctly, is a very good tip, Jesse. Watson's Aquatics. Water changes are key to a long and successful life of your fish. Well, we've had a lot of back and forth going on in the community about water changes, right? And I think we've all reached a point where we understand that if you have a very heavily planted tank with a dirt substrate that has been capped with sand, and you've thrown a little bit of local creek mulm and leaf plant matter in there, and you've got it like planted like 70% full of plants and very lightly stocked, a few little shrimp, a few nanos, you probably only need to top off. But on anything else, you probably do need to keep doing water changes. It can affect hormone levels in the water. It can remineralize your tank, which is critical. Now, certainly in that dirted tank with leaves and twigs and things like that, those things are adding minerals. So I can see the case for a no water change tank, but certainly in my fish room, my planted live bear tank, I'll still do a 20% water change just to remineralize. Even though I am using almond leaves in there, I have wood, I have plant-specific substrate. I'll still do a top-off in there, you know, and a water change, maybe 15%, 10, 15%, maybe 20. But yeah, I think I'll always be doing water changes. What do you think? Is anybody on the stream right now who doesn't do water changes? Let me know. I'd be curious if there's anyone like that here who has tanks that they never do water changes. Now, MC Punk is preaching some gospel, and I'll tell you, you know, if you followed my channels, I've had my share of setbacks, of die-offs, of disease, from colomaris to rushing, you know, from rushing quarantine, introducing bad things in the aquarium, doing too much to an aquarium, and starting a little mini cycle causing an ammonia spike, which killed off some beautiful fish. So, and yes, there were times where I thought to myself, man, maybe I just need a break from the hobby, a break from YouTube. Should I step back? Should I go away for a while? And so I got back on the horse and asked myself, what did I learn? I shared with you folks in the form of a video what I had learned, and got a takeaway from it. But boy, oh boy, stay with it after things go wrong, because they will. That is the truth. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're the king of DIY, Corey, John and Lisa, anybody, D. Darius, all the well-known good guys out there, right? Tozawa's tanks, all of them. They've all had something that they've run into and they've gone, oh, geez. And being on YouTube, then you got to go out there and show it, which puts a little salt in the wound. Enrique says, buy the largest fish tank you can afford. I agree, especially if you're going to be getting into the area of cichlids. Forget all about that 1 inch rule. 1 inch of fish per gallon, throw that away. How big are the fish going to get? How many fish do you want to have ultimately? What's your goal? And buy your tank based on that. Go with the biggest tank that you can afford and that you have a place for in your home. So, yes, I agree, Enrique. Go with the biggest tank you can afford. You'll be happy you did. All right, let's get some more of these. Let's see here. I'll cover myself up so you can see the fish. And this one starts with, I have to post 2 things. Okay, so this is Tishot, TSHOT 2862. I have to put 2 things. Nitrogen cycle. Yeah, we've talked about that. You really should understand the nitrogen cycle. And I really wish, like big box stores and even local fish stores, I wish they would ask the person, are you new to fish keeping? Or are you buying this tank as a gift? Has the person had tanks before? No? Okay. Here. And hand the person a simple card that talks about the nitrogen cycle. And maybe give them a link to a video. I once contacted Petco or PetSmart, and I said, look, I'll create videos. You don't even have to pay me. I'll create videos that you can give to new tank buyers that goes over the nitrogen cycle and help them be successful, because the more people that stay in there, the more future business you'll have. I don't think I heard back. So, okay, let's see here. Number 2, do not overstock your tank. Boy, that's been an ongoing debate in the African cichlid community for many years. But if you look at the tank behind me, I think you'd agree that tank is not what you would call an overstocked tank, right? You would call that a moderately stocked tank. And in the African cichlid world, you'd probably refer to it as a lightly stocked tank. So for a long time, there's been a lot of talk about overstocking African cichlid tanks with extra filtration and large water changes to spread aggression. I don't have an aggression issue in the tank behind me, and it is what you would call a lightly stocked aquarium. Robert Carruthers, feed a quality mix of foods. Well, Robert, you know, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. I mix, man. Currently, I'm mixing Northfin. I'm mixing Extreme. I've just got just a whole bunch of Sarah. I love Piscine. I put Piscine in there when I have it. And I'm feeding them some of the Tube Effects worms, and from the Aquarium Co-op, some of the black worms from Lisa over at Super CICHLIDS. So yeah, I feed frozen bloodworms to the South and Central Americans, to the community live bearers and egg layers. I feed frozen krill to the African cichlids. So yeah. Variety. My theory is that no one company has the perfect formula. And you know what? Even the folks at Sarah, who have probably the biggest scientific and research department of fish manufacturers, Sarah over in Germany, even their reps told me, use Sarah, but put in other food as well, because a variety of food is a smart way to go. And at that moment, I became a believer in Sarah. Carl Waggers. Wait a minute, I skipped the salient. The salient one says less is best, from back in 2015. And yeah, that gets into that, mess less for success. I think what we tend to mess around too much with our aquariums, and the less you mess with them, I think is a better idea, because every time you mess around with anything, you introduce a risk factor. You also introduce stress. And I think it's kind of common knowledge that fish carry stuff just like we do. We have parasites in our body, and probably under stress, those parasites get stronger. Some of those parasites are linked to cancer. But fish carry parasites. Some people think they carry ick. And under the right amount of stress, that ick, those parasites, things of that nature, will actually be able to overwhelm the immune system of the fish. Every time you mess with an aquarium, you create stress. So, yeah, less is best. Thank you, the salient one. So, Carl Waggers 9829, get hardy fish. Starting with hardy fish is the best one of the only tips I got. And okay, so where do you buy your fish from? Hey, where do you buy your fish from? Now, you know, I had a good run with the Cichlid Shack, and James is back. And I think he will honor those codes, the Shack Attack 10, Shack Attack 15. But he was getting fish from a great source, as you can see in the fish behind me. And I'm sure Josh is using an excellent source. I don't know where Dan got those albino hecali, but all 5 of them are battleships. I mean, they're all doing great, interacting with me and eating like little pigs. And so, yeah, start with some good fish. And now, all that being said, I'll tell you, I've gotten some decent fish from Petco and PetSmart, but really look at them closely. Look at the aquarium. Are any of those fish looking stressed out? Are they looking deformed? Are they looking colored down? Are their fins clamped? Or do they look vibrant and colorful? And if they look super healthy, bring them home, quarantine them. Put them in quarantine for a month at least, and keep an eye on them. But use your judgment. But go with hardy fish, no doubt. Rob Gill 131 says maintenance. Now, this goes back 2 years ago where I talked about in the video, do the work, right? You got to do the work. If you're somebody who slacks off, who skips and blows things off, fish keeping might not be for you. You really have to be able to get in there and do the work. And I'll put hours into this fish room every week, from routine maintenance to top-offs to water changes to filter maintenance. So you've got to do it. You've got to get your hands wet and do the work, keeping in mind that you don't want to mess too much, but the basics have to stay in. And if you let the basics slide too long and you end up with an ammonia spike, man, it's a hard road back. So yeah, you got to do the work. Now, for those of you who tuned in late, don't forget, any super chat over $5, you will get a sample of Sarah and Northfin food, and you will get a coaster, one of the new coasters. Now, people have told me, Ben, why don't you brand your merchandise and put your name on them? I don't know why. I'm silly. I usually do sign the back of the coaster. I usually say, give you a nice little message on the back of it. But anyway. Rob Gill 131. Okay, yeah. RGAC 24. Do your research and be patient. Boy, oh boy. Isn't that gospel? Do your research and be patient. From let me change the position of this here. There we go. Do your research and be patient. I'm going to admit something. When I first got going in fish keeping, I would do my research after the fact. A lot of my research and knowledge came from what the heck just happened? Why did I lose that fish? Why are those two fish not getting along? Why is that fish looking this way, that way? That came from research. Like at the time I bought an Aratus, his name was Taxi. We called him Taxi. He was a beautiful yellow. And then one day he turned black. Why is my Aratus black? And then he started killing all the fish. Then I started researching Aratus. And the general consensus was that Aratus are assassins. And so a lot of us research after the fact, and including myself. So if you can do a little research before you set up, and I think that that's the better way to go. But in all honesty, I think the majority of fish keepers, they jump in, they have something go terribly wrong, and then they ask themselves, okay, what happened? And that's how they learn. If we're going to be honest, that's how a lot of us learn in fish keeping. Let me go find a video about Aratus and see, oh, known killers avoid at all costs. Oh, and be patient. Boy, oh boy. You know how I feel about that. Don't rush the quarantine. Don't rush the cycling of an aquarium. Don't rush adding fish to a new aquarium. Take your time and you'll get there. Your brand new tank clouded up. Don't worry. Let it work its way out. You'll end up with a nice colony of beneficial bacteria. It will clear up. Now, if you get a cloudy tank suddenly in an established tank, you may have triggered an ammonia spike by messing around too much. So again, it's a fluid situation, my friends. We know that, right? It's a fluid situation. All right, we got a few more here. Are you liking these? Are you liking these tips? Are you enjoying them? So what do we got here? Don't chase parameters. Let's take a look at that. Here we go. Don't chase parameters from Wilfred Oztuzen. Oztuzen 9633. Don't chase parameters. You know, there's a video I released a long time ago where I talked about, let's move this so you can not have to look at my mug. You can look at the beautiful fish. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. That's much better. So don't chase parameters. I put a video out a while back about people trying to use pH up, pH down, trying RO water, doing this, doing that, and as opposed to just bringing fish in and letting them, adapt to the water that you have. And I think in the long run, that's a better way to go. Unless you have a super sensitive type of fish and you want to go with RO, and then you have to remineralize correctly because the RO is going to take everything out of the water, including valuable minerals. But yeah, don't chase parameters. I think that's a very good one. Your next 6672. That's an oldie but a goodie, my friend. The opinion you follow should be your own. Remember IFG? IFG used to say that at the end of his videos. And I don't care who said it. I don't care if I say it, Corey says it, John, Lisa say it. I don't care. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions about the circumstances in your aquarium. Otherwise, the day will come where something's not going to work and you're going to blame that YouTuber. So ultimately, it's on us. I made a very big mistake following the advice of I made two very big mistakes following the advice of reputable YouTubers. And in both cases, it cost me. So I should have done my own research in both cases and not been so quick to change. And I think if you had to add a corollary to the opinion you follow should be your own, if I had to add something to that, it's be very reluctant to change anything in an aquarium that's working. If your aquarium if the fish look good, the parameters are good, right? Your test results are good. Be very, very reluctant and slow to change anything from filtration to substrate to everything. It's a planted tank, lighting, whatever it might be. And this goes right into what Cichlid Kings, what John says. Cichlid Kings, do your research, have patience, don't chase pH. Absolutely on all three counts. I think patience is, if there was white, I did a video on that. What's the one word in fish keeping? Patience. Probably the most important word in fish keeping. And definitely don't chase pH, because at some point something will happen and you'll have a shift in pH, which is far harder on a fish than putting a fish that is natively in 8.0 pH, keeping that fish in 7.6 steady and over the long haul is going to be a bit easier on that fish than giving him a rapid shift from 7.6 to 8. That's harder on the fish than having them gradually adapt to the parameters and then keeping those parameters level. 808, Beast's Playground. 808, Beast Playground. Be patient. Again, we have a repeat of a very important message. Less is best from Muggy427. Absolutely. Hovid Aquatics 2780. Don't get caught up on any one thing. I've made that mistake. Somebody said something in a video one time, and I jumped into it with both feet, and I ended up actually stressing the heck out of a bunch of fish. So, yep. Don't get caught up on any one thing. All right, what do you think so far, folks? Are these tips making sense? Are they hitting home for you? Are they stuff that you've already heard 100 times? Now, if I got a super chat, I'm sorry I didn't see it, because I haven't been looking at the chat. But again, any super chat over $5 will get a coaster and a sample of food. Just so you're aware of it. Now, we also did the same survey over on Facebook. And that's the Facebook banner. And for those of you who are not familiar, I do have a Facebook page, ben.o.cichlid, all about cichlids. And then I added to the name and a lot more, because of course my channel has changed, and I have a lot more than just cichlids now. But we got some comments at the Facebook page that were also pretty cool, and let's take a look at some of those. Let me find it here so I can read it. I actually printed them out, because sometimes the screen's a little hard for me to read. So we have here Paul Mackey. And the question, of course, was very similar to the one I had on YouTube. What's the best tip you received when you first got into keeping fish? Share below, and your comment might end up featured in an upcoming video. And we got Paul Mackey. This is a tip. Put Ben's YouTube on the big screen TV. Wow, what a difference. All right, Paul, thank you for that. So you don't have to do that. And Eric Mason, the first tip I got that changed how I looked at fish keeping was that I needed to add prime to the new water. I had a fish tank with parrot cichlid, received a gift because the person got tired of fish keeping. So Eric goes on to talk about this. Now, this is real important, especially if you're going to be doing a seeded tank. Let's say you bring media from a seeded aquarium. You bring that media over and you drop it into the new aquarium. If you haven't treated that aquarium with Prime or Fritz Complete, you're going to kill the beneficial bacteria in the seeded media. You're also going to kill the beneficial bacteria in Fritzyme 7 or in a CChem product or Dr. Tim's or whatever you're using to jumpstart the aquarium. If you put it into untreated water, you'll kill the bacteria. So definitely use that Prime, use that Complete, use your water conditioners. 7, Stephen Scalish, have a plan. Tank size to match the grow fish. Yep, there you go. Don't rush. Patience key. And there you go again. Forget about the 1-inch rule. Ask yourself, where's my tank going to be in 5 years? And is this the right tank for me? So all you have room for is a 29-gallon. Please don't buy that Oscar. I know he's cute and he's interacting with you at the fish store. Don't buy that flower horn. Pick up some nanofish. That's all you can fit. And add a few at a time gradually. And what will happen is over time, your tank will become what we call seasoned. It'll become mature. It'll have a real solid core of beneficial bacteria. And you'll be able to throw fish in there. You'll be able to service filters and vacuum and not worry because there's such a good core of beneficial bacteria. But at first, go slow, do one thing at a time when you're doing maintenance, and add fish gradually, and you will get there. Michael Medkowski. Unfortunately, I wasn't given any tips, just drove in head first and made many mistakes. Depends how long you've been keeping fish there, Michael. Some of us who go way back, all we had was literature you could buy at the fish store. There was no internet. You just either had to know somebody who'd been at it for a while or count on the fish store to give you tips. And Raul Castro, watch YouTube videos. And I think he's laughing because it's a plug. It's a plug for ben.o.cichlid's YouTube channel. All right. So did I get everybody? Did I get Tamir? I don't think I got Tamir. My good friend Tamir Menashi. Don't buy even one fish until you know how to perform a complete cycle and what to expect while doing it. That is great advice. But the people who need to hear that are probably not watching this live stream. They're probably not at the Facebook group. They're probably not at my community page or my YouTube channel. They're probably looking at aquariums at their local fish store or at Petco or PetSmart and buying their first tank with no idea what the cycle is. And number 2, don't mix different types of fish from different lakes. Now, I agree with that, but some of you out there are going to say, wait a minute, I've got Victorias, I've got Tanganyikans, I've got Malawis. You know, for some of you out there, it's working. And hey, more power to you. I don't mix lakes. And a while back, I had some beautiful Mabuna. I rehomed them. And I was talking to Denny Rudell, and I might just start a Mabuna tank. We'll see. We'll see where that goes. Number 3, always check the final size of the fish before buying it. Always make sure it'll fit. Yes. And there are some fish that you probably should never buy. Unless you have a giant, like a pool. You know, those giant gars, those red-tail catfish. I mean, there are some fish that probably shouldn't even be sold in fish stores unless there's a big warning on the aquarium that says, do not buy this fish unless you have over 500 gallons. Sam Penny, enjoy the journey. There's no need to rush. It's always better to take your time and enjoy the process. After all, we are in this hobby to find enjoyment, relaxation, and the joys of keeping fish. Unless you keep psychomaniac murder African cichlids like myself and many others here. Oh, yep. But you know, if you look at the aquarium behind me, there's not a lot of psychotic activity going on back there. That's actually not, it's actually pretty calm back there. Now, if that tangerine tiger does get a little bit weaker, sadly, in African cichlid tanks, there's probably going to be a little bit of Darwin-style natural selection. African cichlids are notorious for taking out weaker fish. So if that process starts, I will pull him out and put him into a 5-gallon and let him finish off his life in peace. But there you go. All right. So what do you say? What do you say we take a tour of the fish room? Let's take a look at what's going on in here. And this is today's lap of the fish room, and I want you to feel free to comment as the lap is going on. And then when the lap is over, I'll come back to some of your comments. What do you say? Okay, here we go. Hello, friend. It's been a few weeks since I've given you a lap of the fish room. Let's take a look at what's going on in here with the different tanks and get you and me updated on the status of everything. So let's go ahead. I keep these videos on file as an ongoing record that I actually go back and take a look at sometimes just to see how things are progressing. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on here in the fish room. We'll start with my horn wart jungle, also known as my planted community tank. And everybody in here is doing great. There's some pretty little rummy nose, red serpa. We also have some neons down there. Here's my weirdo fish. I keep harvesting some of this hornwort, moving it to other tanks. You'll see that in a minute. I'm still using that little planter from the aquarium co-op back there. You can see it behind the wood. I put an Anubias in there and he seems to be doing fine. It's an Anubias that kept getting detached and floating around the tank. So I went ahead and put him in that planter and he seems to be doing fine. I may have to start moving or consider moving some of the plecos out of the aquarium here as they get too large. I'll probably end up dumping a couple big plecos into the 90-gallon. Little rasboras. Love the way the rasboras school. Albino pleco down here. Cool guy. Love albinos. Little red tail rasboras. I keep waiting for their red tails to show up. You can see them there. They almost look like the black neons. Of course, I got some lemons in here. Love the rummy nose. It's one of my favorite fish. Well, it looks like the red tear is out. Let's go ahead and move over there before he hides. A little hornwort in his tank. He doesn't seem to be destroying it too quickly. And I do feel that the plants do such good work in the aquarium. Even if they eventually get destroyed, having a few in there isn't a bad idea. But he's looking as good as usual. Just a real handsome guy. I've promised him a wife. I've got I'll probably want to pick up a 125. Just got to figure out where to put it. Just a good looking fish. Let's go over to the 210. Here's the 210 South and Central American tank. Business as usual there. Everybody's looking good. I'd love to be able to put some plants in here, and I have from time to time thrown some hornwort in here, but it disappears pretty quick. These fish, of course, are plant destroyers. Little handprint from my granddaughter right here. Green tear. Not really living up to his name. He's a very, very mellow fish. Nothing tear about him. And there's nothing really Jack Dempsey about this Jack Dempsey. She's very, very mellow. There's no real aggression going on in this tank. An occasional face-off between that fire mouth you see right there and the Nicaragua. Oh, there's Sally. Sally's a camera hog. She knows she's pretty. Big old vieja. Beautiful markings and color on that fish. The albino Oscar up there hanging out in the corner. They're waiting to be fed. There's the Nicaragua. Here's the big red tiger. Looking good. Silver dollars continue to thrive in here. Nobody goes after them, nobody bothers them. One of them, this one right here that you can see right in the middle of the shot that I'm following, I think is the dominant silver dollar. He's got a fin, that a piece of his tail in the middle that trails, where none of the other ones have that. So I'm thinking he might be the head honcho, the shot caller here in the bunch. Just a little chocolate. Just a beautiful fish. This wood continues to float. Will probably float forever. I could push it down or weigh it down, but why bother? I kind of like it hanging there. And the pleco lives right in that little opening where you see a little green there. There's a little bit of green algae where the branch separates, and there's enough space in there where the pleco that lives in this tank actually lives in that opening right there, and it keeps him safe, out of harm's way. Albino almost overwhelms the camera, kind of like the way the red-spotted gold severum does. Just a very, very bright fish. Very pretty. All right, let me get over here to the 300. 300 gallon African cichlid tank. 7 feet across, about 2 feet from front to back. No, over 30 inches from front to back, actually. I think about a little over 2 feet tall. Somehow adds all up to 300 gallons. And these guys are doing fine. Nothing's really changed since the last time we looked at them. The tangerine tiger continues to show his age, I guess. Just not as active as he used to be, but the other ones are looking really good. Leucochromis rhodesii yellow, a sand diver, agar, a strigatus. That's strigatus, cousin of the eye biter, but doesn't have the attitude of the eye biter. I love eye biters, don't get me wrong, and I wish I had one in here. There's the trout, beautiful fish. Have you noticed how some of these fish have a kind of a squared off tail where the back is a straight line? The very back of the tail is a straight, just a straight line, where some of them have a curved tail like this guy here. See, he's got a little bit of a crescent tail. I think those are the fish that are built more for speed. Buccochromis has a little bit of a crescent in his tail. Where some of these, like the gar, who is sort of an ambush predator, spends his time working those big lips between rocks, trying to get fry. So they don't really need that kind of speed. But a fish like an open water predator, like this guy, like the trout, he needs to catch a fleeing fish. So he's built like a torpedo. Everything about him is built for speed. The betta tank is a little quiet at the moment because the betta is inside of his betta log. You can barely see him in there. The hornwort is doing great. Hornwort really loves the watering conditions in my fish room. You can see some of the baby plecos. If you look around, you'll see them. There's a little baby pleco on top of that cave right there. Let me get some more light in here. Maybe you can see him. He's got little white on the tips of his tail on the top of that cave. I imagine there's about a dozen of them. Here's one of the parents right there. Whoop, there it goes. Let me see if I can work the betta over towards the front so you can see him. Such a pretty fish. But very often what will happen is the betta log will drift. Oh, there he is. The betta log drifts and then gets anchored in the hornwort. I prefer it to be like this so I can see him. But he loves hanging in that betta log. One of you, I forget which one of you, recommended I get one. Had never even heard of them before. They're made by Zoomed. Here he goes. He's in his condo. So here we are at the live bear tank, just full of babies. You can see them up there. Some of them are taking on color, like this little guy right in the middle here. Absolutely, really cute. He's a fry from this one, so he's got that little black face, except in a miniature version. Of course, there's a lot of guppies in there too, baby guppies. I'm feeding him a lot of that North Fin fry starter, but I also put in some of the community, some of the North Fin community, or I'm sorry, some of the extreme community flakes. Here's the new edition. The 5 albino hecali I picked up. Very, doing really well. Really going after their food. Very interactive with me. Come right up to the glass. Showing some beautiful colors in their body, their tails. A lot of potential, like in the anal fin, you see some red already in some of them. I mean, they're already very, very pretty, and they're nowhere near where they're going to end up. So Very excited about this group of 5. What I end up ultimately doing with them, we'll see. Again, there's some hornwort in here. There's some decaying almond leaves, some snails, some plecos. It's a very healthy tank for them to put on some size. I've been feeding them some of the Sarah green, some of the veggie flakes from Sarah, and they seem to be doing really well on a combination of veggie flakes and some of the extreme community flakes. All right, here's the 90. Of course, this is a Hecali also, but it is just a standard Hecali. I think they're beautiful fish as well. But the albinos, boy oh boy, are they stunning once they get larger and put on size. Red spotted gold severum is a real camera hog. Not shy like the red shoulder back there. Red shoulder tends to be a bit shy. But the funny thing is the red shoulder is far more aggressive. Red spotted Hecali leaves everybody alone. But the red shoulder chases the red spotted. Here he comes. Right on cue. Don't be a jerkfish. Electric blue Acara is doing really well in here. There's some of that Zoom Ed Mopani wood. Zoom Ed Mopani, and I also threw a little bit of hornwort in here, which seems to be surviving. Maybe they're confused because they've been biting plastic plants for so long. Maybe they figured it's just another plastic plant. Of course, some of these fish are plant destroyers. In particular, the Buenos Aires tetras, which is one of the reasons I removed them from the 55, was because they were nipping away at the plants, and they also can nip at other fish too. So that's the current scene here in the fish room. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to go ahead and get things ready for today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. And I hope you can join me in the future for those if you're not already on one watching this live. And if you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a Patreon monthly supporter. Starts for as little as $3 a month. Really helps out a lot. And don't forget to hit that bell, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and all of that. And if you are subscribed, be sure to check, because I've heard YouTube is actually unsubscribing people for no reason. So be sure to check to make sure that you're still in a subscribed status. All right, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate you, my friends. Bye-bye. So there you go. The lap of the fish room. Commercial free for you. Anyone who watches the replay will have to put up with some commercials. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Thank you to all of you who super chatted. Very, very appreciated. And thank you to my wonderful moderators for helping out during today's live stream. If there are any urgent questions, go ahead and ask them now. I'll be happy to pick them up as we start to go into the wind down. Does anybody have advice for changing substrate from small rocks to sand? Kendall, somebody suggested that you use a kitty litter scoop. Kitty litter scoop. So it has openings in the bottom. So the sand stays, anything small will stay in the aquarium, but you'll pick up all the big stuff. So try that. Use a kitty litter scoop. And then when you add the sand, I've added sand by using a siphon tube. I fill the siphon tube with sand, right, with my hand on the bottom. And then I put my hand in the aquarium, release the bottom and the top, and the sand gently sort of sprays on the bottom of the aquarium. It doesn't kick up too much waste. It's a little bit of extra work, but it keeps the tank from getting too clouded. But that might help. that might work for you. See if there's any more questions. Angelo, I will get you a signed coaster for that super chat. Thank you, my friend, for that. George joined us. George RB3. Hello, George. Lady Diane, which tank gives you the goosebumps? And I know you love Sally. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead and ask them now. Any other comments? Austin Johns, I have 5 frontosas about 1 year old. One of them is seeming stressed out and keeping colors very dark and hides most of the time. Stressed out fish seem to be eating okay though. Just be going through a phase. Just depends, Austin, where he is on the pecking order. Might be a little bit subdominant. Turn your lights down a little bit. Frontosas do like it a little bit on the dimmer side. If you have a light that allows you to dim it a little bit, try that. See if he comes out. And, frontosas are pretty shy, can be pretty shy. But over time, I think they get out of it. I used to have one a while back, and his name was Eeyore. Always seemed kind of depressed. A gentleman named Kevin Green ended up taking him and putting him into not I can't say dim, but just not very brightly lit aquarium that was species specific, all frontosas, and he blossomed. Turned into a nice big guy, and I think eventually he ended up breeding for him. Razin, you just got here. You're at the very end of the party. All the punch and cake is gone, but you can watch the replay, my friend. Lady Diane loves the Sally, the Oscar, and the Salvini tank. That's the 210 South Central American tank. And yeah, I love that tank. I wish I could put some live plants in it. But, I'll throw some hornwort in there and see what happens. But yeah, that Salvini, she's something. She is something. All right, Razin, that's okay. I don't mean I'm not picking on you, buddy. Better you're here late than not at all, and you can always watch the replay. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You are appreciated. You are the best. Thanks to my wonderful moderators, super chatters, those of you who subscribed, those of you who gave it a thumbs up, and those of you who are members of the Garage Gang, and monthly Patreon supporters. Thank you. You're all very appreciated. I will see you all next week. And that's it for me. You rock. Love you. See you again in 7 days. Bye-bye.